Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today we're going to talk. Good day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kale Houser. I am hosting the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast, the podcast that's designed to give you pretty practical, tactical tips that can help you in your everyday journey as you lead your teams, try to create connected teams, and ultimately inspire them to help you grow your business so it can thrive and be something that you can really, not theoretically, but ultimately to be generational in nature, right? Businesses, we want to be able to grow and thrive and pass on to our kids and just have that something kind of legacy, if that's a good term for it. But I wanted to bring up something today, and I even did it just a little bit there in the beginning, is just this concept of talk, right? This concept of, and there's several aspects of this, there's several angles of this concept, because on one hand, you can talk for just the sake of talking, right? You're just kind of filling time. It's small talk. You're talking about the weather. You're talking about this and that. Sometimes it serves no purpose whatsoever other than just kind of filling time and, I don't know, other than filling time. I myself am not much on this nature. That is not my nature to be somebody that just kind of chit-chats and can just carry on not even a conversation, but just carry on a litany of words unendingly. It's not my gift, if you want to call it that. I am certainly an observer by nature. I absolutely love, like I think I've said it before in several podcasts, that one of my favorite things to do is when I'm at the airport, I love seeing all the different kinds of people and human beings in this world, right? All kinds of different shapes, sizes, clothing, attitudes, how they interact with each other, how they interact in their family unit, how they interact with strangers and all this stuff. And I just find it absolutely fascinating, just a study of humanity, right? But there are people, and lots of them, that just love to talk, and it's not so much out of any sort of arrogance or anything of that nature. It's just their nature. They're chatters. They enjoy the engagement, and it's what, it's kind of their love language and what makes them feel connected to other people. And that's ultimately what we're kind of all looking for is some sort of connection with other people and community. But there is a downside to this type of and I don't even want to label it type of a person, but this type of engagement that happens with talkers. And you have to really be aware of it in your business, because this could be a major source of your inefficiencies. This could be a major source of why you're not getting things done, even a major source of discontent or strife that's happening within your teams, because rarely do the two aspects get along or understand each other. On one side, maybe somebody like me who's more on the observer nature, they're more reserved, more quiet, versus the other side, which is more outgoing, and they're talkers, and they just constantly want to be, having that interaction with other people. And when you put those two people right next to each other, maybe they've got desks that are right across from each other, or they're working, side by side, it tends to not go that well, especially if they don't have a previously existing relationship and a history together. And this, again, something you need to be aware of as the business owner and the leader of your organization. And maybe, just maybe, that's you. Maybe you as the owner are the talker. Maybe you as the leader of your department head are the one that is constantly going out to have those conversations. Because sometimes, realistically, and not even sometimes, often as the leader, as the supervisor, department head, it can get lonely because you have different responsibilities from the majority of your workforce. You deal with higher level things that take your time, that doesn't allow you to necessarily get out and be among the people, right? For lack of a better term. And this can get lonely. I think there are even several books written about the loneliness of leadership, and it discusses, there are other resources that discuss this concept at length if you want to get more into it. But then there's also that time wasting aspect of people that are what I will call, let's just call them over talkers. Okay. Not that they're talking over somebody, but they're excessively talking. Maybe we should use the term excessive talkers. But even then, it's all situation dependent. These types of excessive talkers can certainly easily, without even being aware of it, just because, again, it's the kind of their nature and it's what they do to connect and relate, is start into that wasting time aspect of things. And as a business, it's not a social club, right? We're a capitalistic society. This is something that business owners should be striving for, that efficiency, not that cold, clinical type of efficiency where you're not allowed to talk to each other, the kind of the old classic 50s where everyone's just at their typewriters, just for 8 or 10 hours a day without talking to anybody. And they only get up and leave when the bell rings, right? And I'm not talking that kind of efficiency, but I am leaning towards there has to be a certain amount of productivity expected for any sort of position. Okay, so, and this could be extreme, right? You could be a very high level, high performing type of teams that you're running that have a lot of output, right? Whether it be making phone calls on your sales team, or, shining and detailing cars. You've got to get so many cars out, you're at a car wash and you're pushing out cars, and it just has to get done, right? Because they keep coming in, and there isn't time for, hey Bob, how's your weekend? Oh, that's so awesome. Well, I just watched the Raiders game over here, and man, that quarterback he was sucking. And it kind of goes on to this big, long, drawn out thing, instead of just kind of checking in the morning of, how was each other's weekends and that type of thing. So depending on, what that looks like for you, and maybe you're a way more relaxed pace, and certainly the South of the United States is kind of known for this. They're a little bit more relaxed lifestyle, slower pace as far as that. And I think I've shared this story before too. This happened with Liz. We're originally from Washington State, if you didn't know that, north of Seattle, just south of the Canadian border, right on the ocean, a little town called Bellingham, Washington. Beautiful place to grow up. I tell everybody the absolutely best summers of anywhere that I've ever been, like all 3 weeks of it, right? And that's kind of a typical Washington summer. But anyway, that's where we're originally from, the Northwest. And when we entered, Liz and I, when I went into the Air Force and we moved down to Florida, Liz got a job at to the Tourist Development Center for the county that we were in, right? So they were in charge of promoting the county, and you come visit, our towns and all that kind of stuff. And Liz went to work, right? She showed up went at 8:00 and went to her desk and started doing her tasks and everything. And her supervisor actually had to come to her and say, hey, this was, I think, a couple weeks into her working there. It says, hey, you're doing a great job. We love having you here, but you're starting to kind of develop this reputation of kind of being a snob. And she's like, what? And if my wife, she's super nice and she loves talking to people and everything. And she was taken aback a little bit. And certainly we were much younger. This was almost 20 years ago. And she goes, yeah, she says, because you come in, you put your lunch in the refrigerator and you go straight to your desk and you start working. But that's not what that office was about. And certainly, again, this is kind of a county office, so there's some aspects of that versus a for-profit type of a business. But she says, yeah, the other ladies, they kind of take those couple minutes of, hey, how was your night last night? And they kind of, because it was all, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was all ladies that were working there. And Liz just didn't engage in that because she's, in her mind, she's like, I'm at work. I'm supposed to be producing. This is why I'm getting paid to be here. I'm not getting paid to be here to make friends with Tiffany over there or to chit chat with Stephanie across the hall. But her supervisor, she's like, it was part of their culture, was they were not necessarily there for each other, but they were part of each other's lives in the sense of they shared things with each other and they were interested in what was going on, right? They were kind of friends. So her supervisor literally said to her, I give you permission to take that extra 5 or 10 minutes, whether it be at lunch or on your way to the restroom, to stop by and kind of chit chat and connect with the other ladies in the office. And that something to us, and coming from a different type of world in the workforce, and we'd never worked for a government agency to where they had a little bit different standards of attitude. We'd always worked, for for-profit companies where you were supposed to produce, and when you were on the clock, you were on the clock, and that's what you did as your job duties. So it was really fascinating on that aspect, because again, this could be part of your culture, whether you're a for-profit or not, or nonprofit, just depending on how busy you are and the number of tasks that you have to get done. Are you just hanging around a store that is completely dead from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock? You basically have no customers, and you get all your tasks done, and you're just hanging out for an hour or so waiting for the next wave to come in. And these are things you need to be aware of, right? Because everything the answer is it depends. But I'm specifically wanting to address the people in your organization that may be the over-talkers, the excessive talkers, the ones that really take it beyond the initial kind of connection. And we all have an inherent kind of feel for that. Well, I won't say, I'll correct that. We won't say we all have. Most of us have that inherent feel of, okay, this conversation has kind of run its natural course. It's time to go do other things. But some people don't know how to do that, to make those transitions. And again, that may be you as the boss, as the leader, as the one in charge of your team. So I would highly encourage you to start being aware of that, observing it in your office, of kind of figuring out, and you may already know, you probably already know, of who are the ones that you maybe need to have a conversation with, of, hey, Georgette, you really, I love that you're connecting, and I totally understand. And this should be coming out as you're having these conversations with your people and trying and building this culture, especially if you're going through our program, through our 90-day leadership alignment. You'll have these conversations with your people to have that connections, figure out what makes them tick, what are their goals, all those types of things. And one of those feedback items that you can start giving them is, the talking is getting a little much, right? Like there's a point that, hey, I love that you're wanting to connect with Mike over there, and Sally is a good friend of yours that you've developed this friendship, and you both working here. That's awesome, but these are the things I need you to get done, right? These are the things that the job is requiring, and it's starting to impact that a little bit. And it doesn't have to be a punitive by any sense of the word. It's really just setting those expectations and those standards, right? And that's, in my opinion, that's the best way to handle that type of person, because the longer you let it go, the longer you let them just waste those 15, 20, 30 minutes at the water cooler, the proverbial water cooler of the office, it's just going to get worse. And then other people are going to start doing it. And then before you know it, you're the one that's complaining like, I can't find any good people. All these are just time wasters. Nobody wants to work, right? All this kind of stuff. But maybe you haven't even had that conversation with them to know what the expectation, or so they know what the expectations are. All right. And this certainly takes a level of self-awareness. And it doesn't have to be like all at once, like, oh my gosh, and just come down hard on them or anything. It can be a progression of kind of hints and talks, and if they pick up the hints, awesome, right? If they don't, then it's something as the leader, it's kind of your responsibility to take care of that, and do it in a manner that is relatable to them, not necessarily just from your viewpoint, but from theirs as well. Because the reality is, anything about communication is not what I'm telling you. Like even right now, I'm communicating to you. I have an idea of what I want to impart to you and hope that you understand and you take it internally and start processing it, and this desired result comes out of what I have. But the reality is, it's not about what I'm communicating to you or what I think I'm communicating to you. It's what you think you heard. Okay, let me say that again. It's not about what I think I'm telling you. It's about what you think you heard. And that could be entirely different from the words that I'm actually using, right? That could be, I say one thing, and because of whatever you've got going on or distractions that are happening, or just the cultural upbringing filters that you've got, you interpret my words in a way that is not at all what I'm meaning to say. Does that make sense? And it doesn't necessarily have to be in a negative sense. It could be in just a completely different sense that makes more connection to you and how you think about things and process information. And that is an important aspect to understand as the leader. This is a key critical moment to realize that it's not about the words you say. It's not about the message you're trying to send to your people. It's about what they think they heard from you, okay? And that's really kind of the trick. That's what separates the phenomenal leaders, the ones that, like especially in the military of, I will die for you, I will take that hill knowing that it's going to cost me my life, but I'm going to do it because General Patton said so, versus the one like, no, not happening. This guy or gal is loony, right? All those types of things come into play. And the easiest way to do this, again, this comes back to the practical tip, is ask them. I do this with my kids all the time, especially in these kind of life lesson learning moments where I'm trying to explain some big grand, you're becoming a young man principle. Like, ask them, what does that mean to you? Confirm, like, do you understand what I just said? What did I just say? So if you say, hey, I want you to file these files in alphabetical order, and you ask them, okay, do you understand the task? Yes, I understand the task. All right, what is the task that I have asked you to do? You want me to file these, in this file cabinet in, descending alphabetical order. I'm like, well, no, that's not, but to them, maybe they grew up where everything went Z to A, right? I mean, that's a bad example, but you get the point. Like, to them, alphabetical order may mean Z to A, but to you and to most of the society, it means A to Z kind of a thing. So it alleviates those misunderstandings. So so you don't have to come back after they've finished filing all these files in Z to A, and you're like, what the, now go back and put them in order so it's easier to find, right? Kind of thing. And then it creates that disconnect. And then always ask at the end, do you have any questions about this? Is there anything that I have, that you have that's not making sense to you about these instructions or these tasks or whatever it is that you're trying to communicate? And I'll even ask you right now, do you have any questions about this concept that I'm trying to impart to you of it's not about what you are trying to communicate, it's about what they think they heard. Do you have any questions about that? Hey, there's a way to get in hold of me to ask those questions. Kale at kalehouserleadership.com. Shoot me an email. Let me know. That would be pretty legit. Drop it in the comments on whether you're on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Let me know. I'd be happy to answer, and we can provide further clarification. And shoot, you can even come on and ask your question on the podcast. I'd be happy to have you as well if you have some leadership issues you want to discuss. That would be pretty legit. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Make sure you check out kalehouserleadership.com as well as kalehouser.com. Those are our two websites we got going. And if you're in the South Florida area, West Palm Beach area, we've got our live event coming up here in a couple weeks. Make sure you check out kalehouserleadership.com/master. That's kalehouserleadership.com/master to get your tickets for that. Again, that's a live in-person event. We're not doing it virtual at this point. We'll see how it goes. And then, hey, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it. No matter where you're at in the world, have a fantastic afternoon. Bye.